The Phoenix Suns take game one of the NBA Finals, 118-105. First things first, Chris Paul played phenomenally. He had 32 points, 9 assists. He went 4 for 6 from 3. He had a ball game. Like, he was orchestrating. He got everything he wanted, and the Suns should definitely be encouraged on a night where, think about this, right? Devin Booker goes 8 for 21, which is not a good shooting percentage. Jay Crowder gives you 0 points, 1 point, 0 for 8 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. Ayton gives you a solid play, and Booker gives you he got 27 because he went to the free throw line. So with some of the other guys struggling, CP3 still was able to keep them engaged, get easy baskets, and their big three combined for like about 74 points, which is huge, and it is great for them coming out that gate. On the Bucks side, they struggle mightily offensively. Middleton gave you 29, but Giannis only scored 20. He had a subpar show, actually pretty good showing for the free throw line for his standard, 6 for 11. Man, Drew Holiday went 4 for 14. PJ Tucker chipped in 7 points. A lot of things played out in this game that people need to focus and understand on. First of all, it is just one game. The Suns played basically par for the course. They won game one. They played well at home. Some of the key contributors, they didn't show up how they normally do, but they were still able to eke it out. With the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the key things that they really struggled to deal with was the Suns pick and roll, the dynamic pick and roll. And essentially, the Suns' goal with the pick and roll is to get into the paint, get into the seams of the defense, so they can either shoot a foul line J, or they can throw the lob to Ayton, or get offensive rebounds. When you look at this game, the Suns outscored the Bucks in the paint by 4 points. They scored 44 points in the paint, I believe, to Bucks 40. That can't happen. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you can't allow that many paint touches, paint points. You have to make the Phoenix Suns a perimeter team. Some people might say, well, hey, you don't want to do that. You have Booker who can shoot threes, Chris Paul who can shoot threes. You have Jay Crowder who can shoot threes, I think Cam Johnson who can shoot threes. All these guys are great three-point shooters. Guys, they're only great three-point shooters if they're penetrating to the paint and you're getting kickouts. If you're forcing them to dance on a perimeter and shoot threes, they're not a Steph Curry. They're not a Damian Lillard. They're not a Kyrie Irving. That is not their strong suit. That's why if you don't recognize the Phoenix Suns offense, it's predicated foul line down. And then everything else is, three-pointers that come from offensive rebounds and kick-out passes out. That's where they usually come from. So the Milwaukee Bucks are just going to have to change their philosophy on defense. They can't switch everything, because Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez got exposed. The Suns got everything they wanted on that pick and roll. Every time they switch, so every time Chris Paul called for a screen, they'll get Giannis. He'll say next up. Screen again, they get Middleton. He'll say next up. Then he'll go to the guy that he wants. Portis, Connaughton, Brook Lopez. Those are the three guys that he wanted, and he exploited it and caused rotations and forced a bunch of bad matchups for the Milwaukee Bucks. So Mike Budenholzer is going to have to ultimately decide this. Are we going to double CP3 on the pick and roll and make the short roller beat us, which is DeAndre Ayton? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's an option because Chris Paul would have to throw over the long arms of, say, a Giannis or Pat Connaughton or Brook Lopez, and then you have to make Ayton the playmaker, and that's not his strong suit. Or are they gonna fight over the screens? That's number one for the Bucks. Another thing for the Bucks is this: they cannot allow that many paint points, so they are gonna have to figure out. They might have to play a 1-3-1 zone, and people might say that's crazy, but Giannis in the middle of that zone, and maybe you have a big in the back, or if not, whatever, or you have Giannis playing the back, depending on how well his knee is. That eliminates that dynamic pick and roll where they get all into the paint and worming into you. You're going to give up 3-point shots. But if you look at the playoffs in general, Booker has not been great from 3. Chris Paul has been serviceable from 3. Jay Crowder, he went 0 for 8 last night from 3. So those are the key things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to make them a perimeter-minded team. The thing with the Suns is everybody thinks like their offense is like dedicated to shooting threes, running a gun. They're really in the paint. That's where they're hurting every team. So those are the things that Mike Budenholzer is going to have to engage in. Not that 2-3 zone where basically the pick and roll with that Spain pick and roll, Chris Paul gets into this, he snakes his way in, and he falls his rotation so he gets that foul line, Jay. Not that, a 1-3-1 where you got a guy in the middle, and now it's you have to shoot over the big or have to kick out. Or I have to do a cross-court pass, which now, okay, now that plays into the Milwaukee Bucks' hands. Because you just can't give them everything. You can't give them the pick and roll. You can't give them pick points. You can't give them 3-point shots. And you saw game one, the Suns struggled from three, as opposed to the Milwaukee Bucks who hit 16 threes. And that's an aberration for them. So it's kind of like a weird it's like a weird change where the Milwaukee Bucks kind of adopted the Phoenix Suns kind of style, and the Suns adopted the Bucks style in terms of, we're going to get in the paint and stay in the paint consistently. And the Bucks are like, well, we're going to try to hit you out perimeter and see if we can score there. Because Giannis was somewhat aggressive, but with 20 points coming off that knee, we really didn't see much. And now with the Phoenix Suns, this is what you have to really guard against. They have to guard against getting too happy. Chris Paul was at the podium and he said, one thing was we're going to be prepared. We're prepared for everything, or whatever the case is. And I'll tell you this. That game was in striking distance. And, people might feel like, well, the Suns blew them out. The Suns were up 20 at one point. The Milwaukee Bucks got it down to 9. And if a few more shots fall, or they get a couple calls here and there, or they don't give up 26 free throws, we're talking about a different kind of ball game. And that's another thing. The Phoenix Suns were aggressive. They were attacking the basket. They got 26 free throws. They made 25 of them. Next game, do not expect them to hit 26 get 26 free throws. They're not gonna get that. You know why? Because the referees are gonna look at it. There's gonna be a different officiating crew, and they're gonna be like, we were a little bit biased here. They have to do the evaluation right after the game. They make them watch the whole entire game, like 10 calls that they feel like were questionable, and they make them go over again. Chris Paul and Booker, he's not gonna get 10 for 10 free throws again. That's out. So what happens when you get a tighter game, a closer game, and now it's kind of going in the other direction? I picked the Suns to win, but these are like the small things. Like, I feel like people, they'll always overreact game one to game two. It's like one game is like, oh, the series is over. They're not making it past 5. And then game two comes back. It's a closer game or goes to overtime, or the Bucks bounce back. And it's just like, oh, whoa, this guy's struggling. That guy's struggling. This, that, and the third. And you guys want a true, what I'm saying is, like, Booker went 8 for 21. He struggled in a lot of the series prior to this. So that's something to watch out for if you're the Suns. The thing for me is this. If Giannis is not healthy, there's no way that the Bucks can win, because they need a guy that could, make guys form a wall, and then he kicks out and it's a wide open shooter. And if Giannis is not aggressive enough, it just doesn't work for the Bucks. That's why I picked the Suns. But for the Bucks and the Suns, the Suns can look at it like, we did good. We had a good game. This is very encouraging. But for the Bucks, they got to look at it like this. We went 40 for 88. The Suns went 41 for 88. We lost because we just didn't play a great defensive game. If we play defense the way we know how to play defense, we could win the game. And we could win the series. People feel like the Bucks are outmatched and everything like that. Man, look. Don't get that stuff into your head. They're in the NBA Finals for a reason. It's not like, and think about this, right? Like, Allen Iverson took the Philadelphia 76ers, a mainly defensive team, to the NBA Finals. Took a game off the Lakers. They were there for a reason. You know what I'm saying? You could say, I had a crazy year, MVP year. That's why. No, they were there for a reason, because they had a resilience. And I think what really caught my eye, Mike Budenholzer was in the locker room. He said, okay, it's one game. They played a little bit better than us. We have some things we can shore up. He didn't panic. And usually Mike Budenholzer is putting his hands on his head. He's walking on the sideline. He's yelling and screaming at guys. He didn't panic. And that is really scary for me, because it's just like, he's kind of looking at it like glass half full, and how we see things. Like, with all of that being said, the virtuoso performance by Chris Paul, the score doesn't really tell you the tale of the tape, because they got it down to 9. It's just like, if we can string together a few stops and just basically slow down this pick and roll, Like make Chris Paul just a crazy passer, or double him, get the ball out of his hands, slow it down, and instead of switching every pick and roll, we fight over the screens and basically make them have to make a decision. We're right in this game. So game 2 tells me everything. If game 2 the Bucks get blown out, then it's just like, all right, then it's a wrap. But can you really say that? Because in the Brooklyn series, they got blown out the first 2 games, and then they came back and made it a series. But to me, game 2 tells me everything. If they still defend the pick and roll the same way, then it's curtains for them. But if they are able to switch on defense, not switch, fight over the screen, or play a little zone where it's a 1-3-1, get that ball out of the middle of the court, then we're talking. Because if you allow any player to get the basketball in the center of the court, in the paint, they look like an all-star. That's just the rule of basketball. You give up the paint, you make anybody look like an all-star every single day of the week. So that's something for the Suns to really watch out as well. The Fools go, getting too happy, like we have 44 points in the paint. Next game, that's not going to be there. Next game, 25 for 26 free throws, that's not going to be there. So I want to see how it is when it's like a little more balanced officiating. But the Suns did what they had to do. They came out aggressive, and they really serve at home. Chris Paul played phenomenally. Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, those guys are going to have to come along because, the adrenaline of that game 1 is basically what won Phoenix that game 1 to me, besides them getting everything that they wanted on offense. They got everything that they wanted on offense. But, except for their threes. Their threes was horrendous. They shot like 34% from 3. That was terrible. But the next game, it tells me everything because everybody's done settled in. I see what you did. I see your playbook. Now what are you going to do? So that tells me everything. Who's Junction? Who's me Supla? Like, comment, subscribe.